Revenge with Karen. They say you can smell blood in the water. I smelled it in the break room, between the off-brand hazelnut creamer and a passive-aggressive sign about microwave etiquette. That morning, the new VP, Jensen, fresh from gutting 2 departments at our Denver office, walked past my cubicle and said, "Miranda, can I count on you to be flexible during this exciting transformation?" Said it with the kind of smile people wear when they're about to bulldoze your career, and call it agile resourcing. I'd been at Graybridge Dynamics for 15 years. I bled compliance checklists and bled quietly. I wore Slack's 3 shades of gray and knew the company policy binder better than my own Netflix password. While others rebranded themselves every fiscal quarter, I stuck to clean slides, tidy budgets, and numbers that told the truth, even when the truth was ugly. Truth didn't trend anymore. Optics did. Now I wasn't naive. I'd seen it start. Less eye contact from senior leads, vague alignment meetings, my name mysteriously absent from 2 project briefs I'd written. Then came the whispers. They're bringing in someone to shake things up. The same way a wrecking ball shakes up a condemned building. And just before I dive deeper, hey, I know 97% of you listen without subscribing. But if this story hits home, makes you laugh, or just makes you want to throw decaf at a smug consultant, hit that like button and subscribe. It seriously fuels our team and keeps us digging up the best corporate chaos to share with you. All right, back to Miranda's slow burn downfall. The first tangible hit came wrapped in a compliment. Jensen forwarded my Q1 forecast deck to a rising analytics specialist we're bringing in to help modernize our messaging. Translation: you're the fossil. Here comes the jackhammer. My inbox pinged a minute later. Calendar invite, collaboration sync Chad R. External consultant, no title, no bio, just Chad. I clicked his LinkedIn out of morbid curiosity. There he was, Chad R., MBA, Six Sigma, former lacrosse captain and transformation evangelist. His profile banner had a quote, "If you're not disrupting, you're decaying." Jesus Christ. That afternoon, I sat in the huddle room as Chad made his debut, tight slacks, tighter fade, energy drink in hand, like he was pre-gaming for a TED talk that never got approved. He clapped his hands and said, "Let's get legacy thinking out of the driver's seat." And I swear to God, 2 junior analysts nodded like he'd solved world hunger. He pulled up my slide deck, the one I'd used for 2 years to guide $38M in infrastructure realignment, squinted like it had personally offended his ancestors. "This stuff's cute," he said, smirking, "but it's legacy. We're gonna get real metrics in here." I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just nodded and mentally labeled that moment. Phase 1, underestimate me. That night, I opened the original forecast doc, copied it, and added 3 things. A deliberately inflated projection chart showing 142% growth in a dead segment. Formula error hidden in conditional formatting. A fingerprint, prepared by Miranda S. Rev 2.1 do not present. Then I saved it as for Chad Review PPTX and left it in our shared folder like a loaded mousetrap behind a plastic plant. I was done playing defense. Let the frat boy dance. Chad strutted into the Monday stand-up like he'd just scored backstage passes to his own ego. Aviator sunglasses still on inside the office, sipping a Celsius like it was holy water, and trailing a cologne cloud so strong it set off the air quality monitor in the finance wing. "All right, people," he barked, clapping his hands as if the sound alone could trigger innovation. "Let's kick this transformation into hyperdrive." Hyperdrive, Jesus. I sat 2 chairs away, notepad open, pen poised. I didn't need notes, I needed witnesses. He flicked through the PowerPoint I'd built. Clean structure, 19 slides. Oh fluff, slide 4, multi-year trend lines on capital deployment. He rolled his eyes. Legacy material, he snorted. "This looks like something my dad would have built in Clippy-era Excel." A few people chuckled. Not because it was funny, because it was safe. He didn't even look at me when he said it. Just jabbed the wireless remote forward like he was flipping through Tinder profiles of charts he didn't understand. Slide 7, too dense. Slide 9, you'll stuck in 2012. Slide 12, what's this, Miranda? A eulogy for profit margins? The room laughed harder at that one, probably because I didn't. I kept my face still, not even a twitch. I'd been managing male fragility in business casual since before this guy was old enough to rent a car. You want to mock my work? Fine. Just don't forget I know where the bones are buried. Hell, I buried half of them. That afternoon, I went back to my office, closed the door, locked it, pulled up the deck he'd trashed. And then I started planting. Every chart, I saved a hidden note in the metadata. Every slide, I altered the timestamp using my own custom script, just a half-second variance here and there to track changes invisibly. And I renamed the file, Q2 Presentation Review Final V for Real, a little digital smirk for myself. 2 hours later, a meeting request from HR hit my inbox. Subject line, touchpoint, Chad collaboration concerns. I showed up on time, wearing my best yes-and face. Karen from HR smiled like a woman who decorates with throw pillows that say gratitude. Miranda, we've heard that you're struggling to adapt to the new leadership style. Struggling, I repeated, neutral. Yes. There's some feedback that you may be resistant. Chad's expressed that you haven't been as open to integrating his ideas as expected. Almost asked which ideas those were, calling my work a eulogy, disregarding a decade of clean audits. But I just nodded. I'll make a greater effort to collaborate. Karen beamed. That's all we ask. Of course it was. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed late, lights off, just the glow of my monitor and a playlist of angry cello music. I made 3 backup copies of my entire directory and uploaded them to a secure cloud under a randomized file name. I sat back and stared at Chad's smirking headshot in his intro deck. They wanted me to change. Fine, I'd change into a goddamn landmine. Chad wanted access. He got it. Every folder, every worksheet, every half-finished thought marinating in a subdirectory labeled Do Not Use YET. I handed it all over like a well-behaved subordinate who didn't know the difference between surrender and baiting a trap. Appreciate the transparency, Miranda, he said, lounging across my guest chair with his loafers halfway untied, like a man who thought the dress code bent for charisma. I'm gonna clean this stuff up. Make it board-ready, you know? He winked like we were co-conspirators, not predator and prey. I nodded, smiled, jotted something in my notepad. It looked like meeting minutes. It was actually a list of every file I gave him, file names, timestamps, hash codes. My own quiet audit trail, because I knew better than to expect corporate loyalty to remember what I actually handed over once the SHT hit the fan. By Wednesday, Chad was strutting into meetings like he'd birthed the Q2 plan from his personal business womb. We're seeing some real opportunities here, he told the product heads, scrolling through my slide deck with all the confidence of a magician whose tricks he didn't invent. I took a look at Miranda's numbers. Good bones. She's kind of taken her foot off the gas lately, right? Nobody said anything, not even me. But I clocked the tiny shift in posture from HR Karen, the micro nod from Derek in procurement. Chad had planted the idea that I was checked out, and now it was growing like mold in the air vents. Perfect. I uploaded another daily batch of email threads and calendar invites to my encrypted drive. I exported Slack chats with his little side comments. I flagged every version of the performance dashboards he touched. And every single time I modified a doc, even if it was just a spacebar, I left behind a fingerprint, a sequence in the custom footer code that matched the Julian date of the edit. To the naked eye, it was just a normal footer. To me, it was a map of deceit. At lunch, I went to the CVS near 8th and Main, bought a prepaid Android with cash, set up a brand new Proton Mail account from their parking lot. I named it Mar Dynamics Archive at Proton Mailcom. The only contact it had was me. The only messages it sent were drafts to itself. Back in the office, Chad was spinning the Q2 projections like he was auditioning for Shark Tank. We're on the verge of a breakout quarter, he told Jensen, pulling up a line graph that I knew for a fact used an outdated growth assumption from 2021. This is the kind of thinking Miranda's been too close to see. He looked at me when he said that one. Not for approval, for dominance, like a toddler showing off crayon scribbles and waiting for applause. I smiled again, wrote down the slide number. By the end of the week, Chad had moved his stuff into the office next to mine. Started calling it the war room. Brought in a whiteboard. Drew strategy arrows that made no mathematical sense. Posted on his door that said innovation in progress. In Comic Sans. They thought I was quiet because I was tired. No, I was quiet because I was listening. Because I was watching the whole machine wrap its mouth around a grenade. And I was holding the pin. Chad didn't just take over the Q2 report. He disemboweled it, stuffed it with corporate glitter, and paraded it around like a piñata full of fake growth. My meticulous, conservative projections, built on 5 fiscal years of conservative margins and internal variables, got recut into a fluorescent rave of hockey stick graphs and smiley face bullet points. He came into my office Thursday morning waving a printout like it was gospel. Miranda, check this out, projected ops efficiency. Plus 31% YoY looks sexy, right? That's not a real number, I said flatly. He shrugged. It's not about real, it's about narrative. I stared at him. Presenting fiction. He winked. I'm presenting momentum. The board eats this SHT up. And sure enough, they did. Word trickled down from finance. Great work on the projections. Exciting direction. Jensen's thrilled. Then came the meeting invite update. Quarterly briefing Chad to present Q2. My name wasn't even CC'd. Jensen passed me in the hallway later and gave me the kind of smile you reserve for elderly dogs at the vet. Let's give Chad space to run this one. You've built a strong foundation, now let him elevate it. I swallowed the humiliation like stale gum, just smiled and nodded. That night, when the lights were off and the building emptied out, I booted up my terminal, opened the network folders, and got to work. Every edit Chad had made to my report. I didn't delete a damn thing. I just tagged. Slide 6. He'd taken a projected churn drop of 2.8% and turned it into 10% churn reduction, expected by end of quarter. I added a metadata note. Original, 2.8% forecast version MS, 2.3a slide 9. He color-coded a chart with inverted y-axis, making a decline in customer engagement look like a growth surge. I flagged the axis switch in the XML structure. Slide 14. He'd inserted a bullet point that said Productivity Enhancement Initiative, 3x impact. I traced the source and attached the email where he literally typed just put 3x. It sounds cool. I renamed the final deck, Q2 Deck Final Chat Edition v3.8, and saved it in a shared folder. Then, from my local machine, I saved a clean copy, my original projections, untouched. Called it Q2 Deck Archive Real Final v2.0. Here's the kicker. I uploaded his version to SharePoint under v3.8, but in the metadata, I labeled it v4.1.1a. A mismatch, a breadcrumb, invisible to the eye but obvious to a script. It sat there like a loaded chamber in a gun he didn't know he was holding. The next morning, Chad walked past my desk with a venti latte and said, "Appreciate you stepping back, Miranda. Honestly, this stuff's better off with a little edge, right?" He meant flash, hype, bullshit. I smiled at him with the expression you reserve for a man who just started grilling steak directly on a gas tank. Let him cook. The Slack messages weren't even subtle. Chad had created a private channel, Hashvision 2025, but forgot I had access through my legacy admin role. Rookie mistake. That's the thing about guys like him. They think legacy access means outdated. It actually means undetected. Miranda's decks are like a tax seminar in grayscale. He typed one night at 10:42 p.m. I swear one of her bar charts gave me seasonal depression. 2 junior analysts added laughing emojis. One replied, "LOLFR though, her stuff feels like it's allergic to color." I took screenshots. No need to reply, just noted. By now, Chad was floating around the building like some kind of cologne-scented messiah. He held casual coffee chats with board assistants. Laughed too loud in the elevators. He started using phrases like when I was consulting with Tesla, even though LinkedIn said, attended one Tesla vendor event in 2019. But the moment I knew the sharks were officially circling, HR again. Karen called it a wellness opportunity. PDF said, subject, early transition package confidential offer highlights, 10 weeks severance, immediate medical rollover, a generous thank you for years of loyalty. Translation, leave before we push. I stared at it for 11 minutes straight. Then I clicked reply and typed, thank you for the offer. May I have until the end of the quarter to consider? Karen responded within 10 minutes, of course. Take all the time you need, that smiley face. Corporate for please just disappear. What they didn't realize was that I was disappearing. Just not the way they hoped. I stayed late again, alone in the dark office with only the vending machines hum for company. One final document remained, a private log of every change Chad had made since onboarding. I wasn't talking files, I was talking behaviors. Boardrooms he entered, comments he made, which forecasts he touched, cross-referenced with the original metrics, labeled timestamped. I loaded it onto a firewalled USB drive and encrypted it 3 layers deep. The file name was innocuous, Q2 meeting notes 0324, then I slid it into a padded envelope and mailed it to myself. Certified, postmarked. Why? Because timestamps lie, but envelopes don't. That postmark would be proof, undeniable, premeditated proof, that I had flagged concerns before anything detonated. That night, I poured a whiskey neat and watched a YouTube video on how internal fraud investigations work. It was dry, technical. No jump cuts, but I took notes. The next morning, Chad strutted past my desk again, this time humming something, maybe Drake, maybe just his own theme song. He paused. "Hey Miranda, quick question. What did you call that customer segmentation method you used last year?" "That thing with the color zones." "Traffic light analysis," I said. He nodded. "Cool. I renamed it momentum mapping for the board deck. Has more zip." He winked, and I just smiled. Let him rename everything. Let him paint over history with highlighter ink, because I had the receipts and the postal tracking number. "Don't say I told you," Greg muttered, eyes locked on his coffee, as if it were suddenly the most confidential item in the building. We stood by the sixth-floor kitchenette, pretending to stir powdered creamer into burnout. Greg had been here almost as long as I had, compliance manager, quiet, loyal, allergic to drama. If he was whispering, it meant the knives were already out. "They're folding your role into strategy next quarter," he said low. Official line is efficiency. Unofficially, they want clean optics for Chad's numbers when they go to investors. "Your title's in the way." I didn't blink. "Thanks, Greg." He nodded once and left, still pretending his coffee needed stirring. Back at my desk, stared out the window at the parking lot, the rows of identical subs, the cigarette butts smashed under non-smoking signs. I'd always assumed I'd leave this place with a plaque, a retirement speech, some sad cake with my name misspelled, but I was starting to prefer silence. No applause, just collapse, quiet, elegant collapse. That afternoon, a company-wide invite hit everyone's inbox. Subject, all hands. Q2 transformation metrics reveal presenter. Chad. That was my department, my metrics, my team, my numbers shaken, stirred, and served with a buzzword garnish. I opened the calendar and read the invite 3 times. No mention of me, no agenda. Just Chad, the mic, and an audience. Good, let him have the stage. I opened Terminal and ran a script I hadn't touched since 2020, something I wrote back when we were dealing with rogue client logins. This time, configured it for internal use. Detects external openings of any PowerPoint deck on our shared drive. Logs the IP address. Timestamps each access. Sends silent pings to a remote spreadsheet, accessible only through my Proton mail. Then I embedded a tiny beacon inside the slide deck Chad had renamed Q2 Transformation Victory Lap Final. Every time he opened it, I'd know. Every time he downloaded it to an off-site device. Logged. At 9:42 p.m., the first ping came in. A private IP tied to the C-Suite VPN. At 10:06 p.m., another hit, this time from an iPad registered under CR tablet. Perfect. I poured myself a glass of wine and opened a new email draft from the burner account. 2. Board members at Graybridge Dynamics COM from Mar Dynamics Archive at Proton Mailcom subject. Audit trail. For your records. No body text yet, just the subject line, just the intention. I attached a placeholder zip file with nothing inside, just to hold the slot. Just to remind myself, soon, across the room, my phone buzzed. Chad had posted in the team Slack, "Pumped to show you guys what real change looks like tomorrow, smiling fire, let's bring the thunder." I didn't reply, didn't even look twice. Because when you know the storm is coming, you don't warn the fool dancing in the field. Just close your windows and press send when the lightning hits. Friday morning, 7:52 a.m. I stood behind the tinted glass of conference room B, just out of sight, watching Chad rehearse my department's numbers like he'd handcrafted them from raw insight and God's own market intuition. The junior analysts sat in neatly aligned chairs, sipping kombucha and pretending to care. Chad paced in front of the screen like a motivational speaker who moonlights as a stock photo model. Slide 12 flashed onto the monitor. A bar graph exploded upward, red and gold, labeled Client Engagement YOY, plus 162%. I blinked. That segment hadn't seen triple-digit growth since before we installed the new CRM, and I knew because I designed the reporting dashboard myself. He didn't even pause, just nodded at the slide like it was gospel. "This is the impact of bold leadership," he said, smug as sin. "We didn't adjust Miranda's numbers, we unlocked them. There it was. He wasn't just stealing, he was sanctifying the theft." I walked back to my desk, sat down, and opened the final version of the deck he'd be presenting at the all-hands. One last little gift. Slide 18, An infographic he'd Frankenstein together from 3 different models, still bore the chart title I'd originally written. I selected the text box and opened the metadata editor buried in the XML code. Beneath the surface, where only a forensic IT audit would ever look, I inserted a comment line. Generated by Chad Tamper v3. XLSX source file archived. No alarms, no pop-ups, but it was there. A smoking gun duct-taped inside the wall. Then I hit save. Next, I opened the burner phone, powered it on, enabled hotspot, connected my laptop. I logged into the Proton Mail account. The draft was still sitting there, subject line locked and loaded. I swapped out the placeholder zip for the real payload, a folder with both versions of the Q2 report, a PDF summary of metadata mismatches, IP logs from the monitoring script, screenshots of the HashVision 2025 Slack channel. Short note, please see attached records concerning unauthorized data presentation. Then I opened the Send Later panel and scheduled it for 11:18 a.m., 10 minutes after the meeting started, 2 minutes into slide 14. The one where Chad used the term miracle inflection point. I shut the burner, unplugged everything, hid the phone inside a hollowed-out 3-hole punch I kept on my shelf, something no one but me had touched in 3 years, and I stood by the window. Down in the parking lot, Chad stepped out of a Tesla he definitely didn't own, adjusting his blazer like he was about to win a damn Oscar. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel pride, just an eerie calm, like the silence before a fire alarm starts blaring. I wasn't trying to reclaim credit anymore. I wasn't trying to be heard. I was just making sure the lie got seen. 11:08 a.m. Livestream flickered to life on my second monitor, Boardroom A freshly polished, every leather chair filled, every suit stiff with anticipation. Chad stood at the head of the table, hair slicked, jaw flexed, iPad in hand like a preacher about to deliver a sermon in fake numbers and borrowed glory. I sipped my tea, Earl Grey, no sugar. Let the bitterness match the room. Thanks for making time, everyone, Chad began, voice just a little too loud for the mic. You're about to see is the result of bold thinking, adaptive modeling, and a new era of efficiency under my guidance. My face stayed stone. Slide 3, client retention rate plus 47%. That number was born in a spreadsheet Chad renamed but never restructured. I recognized the formatting error that doubled the data range, intentionally left for this very moment. Slide 7, net revenue growth. 22%. He cited a line from my draft notes. When I marked unverified internal only, highlighted in yellow, he kept the number, removed the warning. Slide 11, engagement trend line, the one with the reversed y-axis. The dip became a rise. He was presenting rot with a PowerPoint polish. I glanced at the burner phone, resting quiet beside me like a coiled rattlesnake. 2 more slides. Then came the bomb, slide 14. The now infamous miracle inflection point. A kaleidoscope of red and teal bars, climbing like a miracle no one asked for. Thanks to our refocused strategy, Chad said, pacing, we're projecting a 162% surge in client engagement by EOQ. He tapped the screen like a man proud of how hard he could lie. Silence followed. Then a voice, Director Langston. Chad, quick clarification. What's the baseline data source for this engagement figure? It wasn't noted in the footnotes. Chad paused for half a beat too long and smiled. It's a proprietary aggregation of survey metrics and usage analytics. We, built it internally. Dynamic stuff. Langston frowned. Dynamic how? Chad shifted his weight. It's real time, mostly. I'll follow up with the exact tables. Right now I'm focused on the top-line takeaway. There it was, the crack, the tell. I picked up the burner, clicked open the Proton Mail. 1 tap, send. Subject line, live audit trail, presented data vs. Originals attachments. Every doctored chart, every internal mismatch, every Slack log, and falsified revision timestamped. Signed, cross-verified. On the screen, Chad launched into slide 15, completely unaware that every board member's phone had just buzzed. Mine did too. Echo notification, just to confirm. The tea had gone cold. I didn't care. The room had just gone hot. It landed at 11:19 a.m. Phones buzzed. Watches pinged. Laptops blinked with the subject line that broke the illusion. Live audit trail. Presented data vs. Originals. At first, Chad didn't notice. He was still waving his hands at slide 15, spewing jargon about user stickiness and momentum tiers like a drunk fortune cookie. But then Director Langston's phone lit up, followed by VP Morales. Then Jensen, whose expression slowly slid from tight enthusiasm to something brittle and wet, like a Jenga tower swaying in a breeze. Langston opened the attachments. He didn't even flinch, just raised one eyebrow and quietly rotated his screen toward Morale's. I'd made it easy, side-by-side visuals. Original slide, 12% forecast growth. Presented slide, 162%. Original chart title, tentative, do not present. Presented slide, title removed, axis flipped. Metadata logs with timestamps. Slack screenshots with his quotes. A full PDF summary with indexed page numbers and file hashes. VP Morales leaned in and whispered something to Jensen. His jaw tightened. Then came the death rattle. From the end of the table, someone murmured, barely audible over the hush. He didn't check a single number. Chad faltered mid-sentence. And with this approach, where his iPad screen dimmed, he tapped it, looked around. What's going on? Jensen stood. Let's pause here. Langston didn't even look at Chad. He was already typing something into his laptop. A junior board assistant entered, whispered to another VP, and backed out of the room. Chad glanced around like a man trying to find a fire escape in a building with no doors. I closed the live stream tab. Then I shut down my work laptop, unplugged it, slid it into the bottom drawer of my desk next to the old holiday party name tags and my backup inhaler. I stood up, smoothed my cardigan, and walked out without clocking out. No words, no email, no wave to reception. The next day, I didn't show up, nor the next. On Monday, my early retirement approval came in. Full medical rollover, benefits extended. A thank you for your years of dedication PDF that someone in HR probably copied from a template dated 2008. 2 days later, word spread like coffee on carpet. Chad R. Consultant contract terminated. Cause, integrity concerns. He didn't get a farewell email. He got escorted out mid-afternoon by a guy from building security who once asked me for tax help in the break room. I watched the news trickle in from the comfort of my porch, a glass of wine in one hand, the burner phone factory reset and dropped into the trash with a satisfying clunk. Burned bridges, every single one, salted, documented. Sent certified mail. Let the next consultant read the ashes. What I love about this story is how quiet competence can be the most lethal weapon in the workplace. It's a reminder that just because someone isn't loud doesn't mean they're not dangerous, and that the most devastating revenge doesn't always come with yelling, but with receipts. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button, or this fossil might just cause another epic fiasco.